All right, we are back with another Mary Truth Talks. My name is Marianne. I am your host, and if you have not subscribed, do it right now. Click that smash. Click that smash button and subscribe and join.
There's a smash button?
Yeah, man. It sounds cooler when you say smash. Smash that like button. I'm getting better at this, I promise. Just smash that like button and the subscribe. Become a truth seeker today. Join the Truth Seeker community. All right. So before I begin, follow me on social media, Mary_Truths, Mary_Truths with an S. That's on TikTok and on Instagram. And very important, if you believe in connecting your mind and body, connect your mind and body with us through our Patreon.
That's right, folks. Hit that smash button. If you don't want to hit the smash button, well, you can hit the subscribe button instead.
Yeah, well, no. You got to do both. Help us out. Help us out. And like I said, if you want to invest in yourself and also invest in us, that we can grow the team, join us monetarily on MBE/Patreon. I believe that's the website. All right, let's begin. We have a lot to cover today. So when you see this, we're going to be currently on a trip. So this is not live, but we're doing this because we still want to have content for you guys. Just because we're going on a trip doesn't mean that we're going to stop. So another reason to subscribe right now because of our consistency and dedication. So we're going to be going to DC. So I'm very excited. We're going to be showing you guys our experience. And
to the heart of corruption.
Yes. I've been wanting to go for a long time. So I'm going to be going with Laz and we're going to go to Virginia afterwards. So it'll be the first time we ever go to Virginia. So stay tuned for that. All right, so let's begin with, we're going to do, as always, law and order, immigration, politics, and international. And stay tuned to the end to get the Truth Seeker story. Okay, so Harvard is being cut from tax dollars. I didn't even know we were funding them, which is crazy. Trump questions the interpretation of the Fifth Amendment in an interview on NBC. That was literally the story of the entire week. Everybody was running on that over and over again. Trump brings up opening Alcatraz. Everybody was also talking about this very trending story. Democrats claim the people regret their votes. I don't know about that, but we'll get into it. Trump's speech in the University of Alabama. A lot of people were talking good. A lot of people were talking bad. I only have a short of it because it was an hour-long video that we were not going to watch. So, and then international, we got Mexico leader denies help to handle the cartels. I wonder why. Maybe because she isn't really the leader of the country. And stay tuned to the end and find out what the last story is. All right, let's start with the first one. Harvard is being cut from tax dollars, which is insane considering it's a private institution. Why are we funding them again? I don't understand. I didn't even know we were funding them. I thought private meant like no federal funding. Apparently not. So let's look at this really quick.
You look at the polls that have come out. Americans do not like the federal government interfering in colleges and universities, even Harvard. Like when you've gotten the American people on the side of Harvard, you've officially overreached. I'm curious, what is your recommendation? What would your recommendation be to Republicans on the Hill, Republicans in the administration, on the best way to go about doing this and defusing it?
Well, Joe, look, I'm thinking about the impressive coalition that Donald Trump was able to build, and specifically Hispanic voters. And you've been to South Florida a lot. You know how passionate the community there is about freedom and about self-determination. And I think we can all agree, some of these universities, they've gone too far. They've shut out certain points of view, and that's wrong. And we should encourage that improving. But when the government starts telling so many institutions how they have to behave, what exactly they have to do in a fairly subjective manner, I think that Trump coalition really starts to break down, especially those Hispanic voters. I was just talking to Caddy here earlier. this whole thing about the number of dolls that kids can have. I mean, it really starts to sound like big, massive government permeating all sectors of society and telling people what they have to do, how they have to think, how they have to live, what they have to become used to. I mean, that's why a lot of Hispanics came to this country to flee. Right? From that kind of big government, heavy hand.
With the hypocrisy. All right. So before we get into the next one, I just want to tune in on that really quick. So they're saying that by him doing this is like big government controlling private institutions. And I mean, yeah, you can say that, and that's definitely a good marketing tactic to get people who are already left to side with you. Maybe the independents will also side. But at the end of the day, the people that want big government is not the conservatives, it's not the right, it's the left. The left are the ones who want big government. That's why they don't want tax cuts for middle class. They say they don't want tax cuts for the rich, but the reality is the tax cuts benefit also the middle class, not just corporations. They don't want tax cuts. So that's already big government. They want more taxes. That's big government. They don't want federal funding to be laid off. They don't want federal workers that are redundant to lose their jobs. They want big government. So I think it's really ironic that the left is now using big government as a reason to justify that it's wrong for Trump to tell Harvard, yeah, you can't do what you're doing when we're funding you in the name of big government. It doesn't work like that. You can't have your cake and eat it too. If you don't want big government, then you shouldn't want taxation. And clearly they do. So they're just talking a big game. At the end of the day, they love big government. So I just wanted to put that out there. So let's talk on the next one really quick. I believe it's also a short. I could be wrong. No, it's not. It's a video. Okay.
What should Harvard do where you'd say, okay, to get back in your good graces, what does the university need to do at this point?
Sure. So the right thing to do, or I should say the wrong thing to do, is receive a letter from the administration and write back saying, we're doing nothing. In fact, we're going to sue you. Okay, that's what Harvard did. What Harvard should have done is should have said, President Trump, you make some good points, right? Taxpayer money coming to Harvard, that's a privilege. Mm-hmm. It's not a right. And, taxpayer money, going to an institution, the institution cannot have massive amounts of administrative bloat, waste, bureaucracy, and we're going to eliminate it. We're going to hire AlixPartners, or restructuring firm. We're going to take a 3G, zero-based budgeting approach to our the way we run our administration. Things that are not inefficiency is causing harm, and we're wasting taxpayer money. Mr. President, you're right. Harvard has become, there is not viewpoint diversity at Harvard. Students are self-censoring their remarks in classrooms. Faculty are doing the same because people are afraid to have real conversations. You can't learn. You go to college to be exposed to a broad array of ideas. And I guess maybe I should be looking at Joe. Broad array of ideas. And that's not happening at Harvard. Free speech is not happening at Harvard. So you acknowledge the areas where the president is absolutely correct. And you say, look, we're going to fix those areas, okay? We want to make a deal, Mr. President. What have we seen from Trump? He asked for the moon, kind of shock and awe, okay? Same thing true for Harvard, that most recent letter. Yeah, you could argue it's certainly overreaching in some of the elements. But he wants to make a deal. Make a deal with the president, commit to fix these things, which, by the way, your alumni want you to fix. It's in the best interest of Harvard. And treat shareholder, taxpayer money like as a fiduciary, and they're not doing that. And Harvard is not in a good financial position. This is something I think is not well appreciated. They nominally have a $53 billion endowment. I don't believe the carrying values of their endowment. 80% of the assets are invested in real estate, private equity, and venture capital.
So it's not liquid.
It's not liquid, and they're apparently selling a $1 billion slice of their private equity. Watch where that gets priced relative to the carrying value of the portfolio. My guess is it could be 30, 40%.
A lot of economic mumbo jumbo that I don't really care about. All right, so essentially what he's saying is that, who is that guy anyway? What's his name? What's that guy's name?
I just closed the video.
Damn it, man. I'll find out really quick while I tune in on that. So he's pretty much saying that they shouldn't have fought back because what happened was, so you know how a couple of weeks ago we went live and I showed you guys a video on how I believe it was in Columbia University, but it was also Harvard, that they were allowing these mass protests, that were anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, pro-Palestine, and they did damage private property. They were doing massive campsites. So it was a very big disturbance in an institution that's supposed to be meant for learning and education, all that good stuff, and free speech. So last year, they literally took this to to Congress, and you had the administrators from Harvard and Columbia and another university, I think it was Yale, and then you had Jewish students there, and the administrators were not able to justify why they even allowed that to happen in the first place. So, and then when Trump came in, Trump pretty much told Harvard, because they were the worst ones, hey, if you don't change the way you operate, we're not going to fund you. And then Harvard tried to act hard and was like, no, you can't do that. We're going to sue you. So now Trump is like, oh yeah? All right, well, guess what? I'm gonna remove your tax exemption. You're gonna have to pay taxes now. And from what this guy said, from what I understood, I'm not an economic person, I'm just an average Joe talking on the internet. But he's pretty much said that they don't have any actual cash at hand, Harvard. Everything is all investments in assets. So they're in no position to be suing the Trump administration. Zero.
Name is Bill Ackman.
Oh, Bill Ackman. Okay. So I believe he's an alumni from Harvard, if I'm not mistaken. If you can fact check that. But if you don't have any actual leverage, then you shouldn't be playing hardball, which is the same problem that China's having. A lot of people and institutions, or mainly institutions, are having this problem where they're too arrogant and they thought they were too big to fail, and that doesn't exist. You're never too big to fail. Especially if you're in an institution that's being funded by tax dollars, you can easily fail when we are in a time where parents want more discretion on what their kids are learning, where teachers are not questioning whether the school system is even good or effective for teaching. And then we have administrations, this one at least, actually saying, yeah, we need to stop wasting taxpayer money and we need to use it wisely. Because at the end of the day, it's not their money, it's our money. So I think this is a step in the right direction. A lot of people on the right are broken on this. I'm not technically a conservative, even though a lot of people swear that I am. I lean more right than obviously I don't really lean left on anything really, but I wouldn't consider myself a conservative because of the lifestyle I live.
Yeah, so Bill Ackman is a Harvard alumni.
Yeah, I figured. Okay, that's why he was talking about it. Okay. So this is a good thing because this is going to pretty much get private institutions to realize if you want federal funds, there's requirements to the federal funding. If you don't want to stick to these requirements, you don't get funding. It's that simple. I think they also need to put into question who is funding Harvard. Because if I'm not mistaken, China funds Harvard, Qatar funds Harvard. You have a lot of adversarial, questionable countries that are funding Harvard. So I think that this is a case that's going to be a foundation for a lot of other things, but private institutions, especially universities, if you want to do whatever you want with the students that go to your school, you cannot be getting any federal funding. You need to be completely independent from the federal government. So that's my take on that. You tell me what you think in the comments. So let's go on to the next one. Trump questions the interpretation of the Fifth Amendment in an interview on NBC. This went crazy because NBC, Fifth Amendment is all about due process. So let's take a look at this, and I have a lot to say about this.
Yeah, give me a sec here.
Okay. So NBC, it's Meet the Press with the lady with the crazy eyes. She pretty much.
Let's talk about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know why that wasn't in the queue here. That was weird.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, cool. Go ahead. Go ahead, yeah.
this, because obviously you've had a back and forth with the Supreme Court. In a 9-0 decision, the Supreme Court directed your administration to facilitate the return. You've talked about this in the past, of Kilmar Abrego Garcia from a prison in El Salvador, whose deportation your administration called an administrative error. You said in a recent interview you could bring him back, but you won't. Are you defying the Supreme Court, sir?
No, I'm relying on the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi, who's very capable, doing a great job, because I'm not involved in the legality or the illegality. I have lawyers to do that, and that's why I have a great DOJ. We have a great one. We had a very corrupt one before. Now we have a great one. And they're not viewing the decision the way you said it. They don't view it that way at all. They think it's a totally different decision.
Well, you say you have the power to bring him back, though. Your attorney general says, quote, that's up to El Salvador. Just to put a fine point on this.
It is.
Do you have the power to bring Abrego Garcia back as the Supreme Court?
Well, I have
ordered?
the power to ask for him to come back if I'm instructed by the attorney general that it's legal to do so. But the decision as to whether or not he should come back will be the head of El Salvador. He's a very capable man.
Well, you know, and your attorney general has said the issue is with that word facilitate. Will you seek clarification from the Supreme Court?
Okay,
Do you need to go back to the Supreme Court?
We may do that. I was asking about that. We may do that.
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr.
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know. It seems it might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials. We have thousands of people that are some murderers and some drug dealers and some of the worst people on earth. But some of the worst, most dangerous people on earth. And I was elected to get them the hell out of here, and the courts are holding me from doing it.
Mm-hmm. But even given those numbers that you're talking about, don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. I have to respond by saying again, I have brilliant lawyers that work for me, and they are going to obviously follow what the Supreme Court said. What you said is not what I heard the Supreme Court said. They have a different interpretation.
Is anyone in your administration right now in contact with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia to the United States?
I don't know. You'd have to ask the Attorney General that question.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking.
All right, so there's that. Okay, let's move on. But before we move on to the next one, so Marco Rubio never said that everybody has a right to due process. That's not what he said. Just like the Supreme Court did not say that he has to bring him back. The Supreme Court said you have to facilitate his, the process of bringing him back to the country. Facilitate and mandating are not the same thing, and I don't know why the media likes to play on words. I mean, I know why they do it, but they shouldn't, because the media is supposed to be neutral and they're supposed to just give you the facts. And the facts are the Supreme Court did not mandate Trump to do anything because they're not allowed to do that. They're not the executive branch. They don't enforce laws. They interpret the law. That's their job, even though right now they've forgotten that's what they're supposed to do. But he has literally, he doesn't have to bring him back. He has to wait on that president, El Salvador, to say, yeah, you can take him back. And I want to make this clear. He can be deported again, just to a different country. Okay, just putting that out there. So let's go on to the next one, and then I'll put my full 2 cents into this. CNN, right? Yep. It's 3:48 to 5:46. It's like a 2-minute clip.
Oh, I think so. I think anybody who's present in the United States has protections under the United States Constitution.
Yeah, well,
the 14th Amendment, it doesn't speak of citizens, as some constitutions grant rights to citizens.
Then why does it have
but
the 14th
our Constitution says person. And the person is every person who is here, documented or undocumented.
That's not what.
Batya, I wonder why it's so difficult to understand a pretty simple concept. If Trump wants to deport illegal immigrants, he can do that, but he ought to do it legally. Do you think that that is a fair thing to say at this moment?
I do. I do think the media is pulling another, dictator for a day hoax right now, because It's clear when Trump said, I don't know, what he meant was what he finished his sentence saying, which is, I don't know where the Supreme Court is going to come down on whether deporting these illegal migrants is constitutional or not. It's very obvious, yet every
hold on.
single
All right.
headline...
You just called it a hoax, so
Bro,
let's
her
just
job
play.
is not to interrupt.
Can we
and
play
that's
it
all she
again
does
in
the
the
entire
control
time.
room, what Trump said in response to Kristen Walker?
Your Secretary of State says everyone who's here, citizens and non-citizens, deserve due process. Do you agree, Mr. President?
I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know.
Well, the Fifth Amendment says
I don't know. It might say that, but if you're talking about that, then we'd have to have 1 million or 2 million or 3 million trials.
So can I respond to that?
Yeah.
So what does it mean for an illegal immigrant to have due process? We would all agree that they do not have the same level of due process that we do.
Right.
For example, we are entitled to a jury trial, and they are entitled to a hearing before an immigration judge. Do you know who the immigration judges work for? They work for the executive branch.
All right, that's it.
They work for
what?
Because everybody else just tries to, so what? And they try to attack her. And that's the part that gets me. Like, these are supposedly smart people. You know, they went to like these Ivy League institutions. But then again, Ivy League doesn't mean anything. I mean, look at Harvard and Columbia. But they're supposed to be smarter than me, right? They're supposed to know more than I do, right? They have degrees. I don't. But yet, I'm smarter than they are because they don't seem to understand that there's a very big difference between the way you treat a citizen versus a non-citizen. I feel like I've been beating the horse about this for so many freaking lives already, but I guess I have to continue because they don't understand the picture. It's very easy. Let me break it down to you. In the Constitution, the Founding Fathers did not predict there was going to be a mass invasion by the executive branch disobeying laws, breaching our national security and immigration laws, and allowing millions of people to cross the border illegally. Okay? That's one. Founding Fathers never thought that was going to happen. Number two, in the Constitution, there's something called the 14th Amendment, which talks about slavery and how that gave blacks rights to be a citizen. Then that same amendment was then interpreted in the 1700s or the 1800s, I'm not sure, I think it was the 1700s, about a Chinese man who left the country, came back, and they weren't allowing him in because neither of his parents were Americans, they were nationals from China. So that's when the Supreme Court interpreted the 14th Amendment for the first time ever, until now it's going to interpret it again, on whether birthright citizenship is citizenship. At that time, in the 1700s, when, again, there wasn't an invasion of people crossing the border using anchor babies to get benefits, they said, yes, if you are born here, regardless of your status of your parents, you are a citizen of America. However, because of the invasion that's been happening on our borders, because we've gotten so many people come here the wrong way, the interpretation must change. That's why he did an executive order to literally get the Supreme Court to question whether birthright citizenship is even valid. Because you have to look at when the interpretations were made and how the immigration was at that time. And you cannot compare the interpretation from the 1700s to now. It's totally different. We have so many people that have crossed the border. And what I really don't like about Abby Phillips, which is the host of the show, is the fact that she disregards this very, very obvious question. Why are you so concerned about illegals having due process to leave this country when there was no due process for them to enter the country? In fact, the majority of illegals that enter the country don't even show up for their judge hearings, which clearly shows that they're trying to escape getting deported, which means they knew they weren't supposed to come here the way they did to begin with. So that clearly is a sign of guilt right there, and a conscience at the same time. And it proves that if you did not want to come here the right way, because you do have due process to come here the right way, that's why it takes so long, and you did not show up for your hearing to see a judge, then you definitely don't have a right to come here, and you definitely don't have the right to due process. I don't understand why this is so complicated, especially because of the impracticality of having to give due process to all the millions of people that came in here. It's utterly ridiculous. And guess what? we're going to have to pay for it. So it's unpractical at all. It's unrealistic, and it's just unfair because, again, there was no due process for them to come in, so there shouldn't be any due process for them to come out. This is perfect logic, and it really upsets me that people that are supposed to be smarter than me don't understand that concept. But I'm sure the people watching do, because you guys are smart individuals, regardless of what the media says. We're actually smarter than the media. That's why we're becoming the media now. All right, tell me what you guys think in the comments, and let's go on to the next one. So Trump brings up opening Alcatraz. People lost their shit about this. This is not going to happen. I don't think this is going to happen. But hey, you never know. With Trump, you don't know. Let's take a look. Can you read that? Because I can't see anything.
President Trump said that he wanted Alcatraz to be restored as a prison and house America's most ruthless and violent offenders.
Okay.
It's long been a symbol, Alcatraz, of whatever it is. I mean, you know, it's a sad symbol, but it's a symbol of law and order. And, you know, it's got quite a history, frankly. So I think we're going to do that, and we're looking at it right now.
All right. Can you imagine that?
So it says Alcatraz has not operated as a prison in more than 6 decades and is best known today as a museum.
Yeah, I went to it years ago when San Francisco was actually clean and not filled with filth and feces and homeless people.
How was it?
It was, honestly, it was pretty cool. No, like, I don't know why they stopped. I mean, I know why they stopped. They suppose there was too much maintenance or whatever, but, you know. So this is my argument with this. This is not going to happen because it's not practical. That's one. And 2, you know how many people are in prison for stupid reasons like weed? There's so many states that are so hardcore on weed that they have people in there for years for weed. Like when it comes to like cases like that, non-violent cases, dude, do some prison reform, give them some, like, I don't know, parole or something, do something else, get those people out of there, and you'll have plenty of space to be putting illegals until you can get them out of here. Because the reality is, the reason why he brought this up is because you can't house them on Guantanamo Bay, because Guantanamo Bay is mainly for terrorists, and they don't have enough space right now in prisons, supposedly. So if that's the case, then you need to look at the people that are in prison right now that can get a shorter sentence, can go out on rehabilitation or whatever they call it, to move people in. Because there needs to be massive prison reform. Like, people need to stop getting arrested for stupid shit. It's really just weed that I have an issue with. Even I understand federally to Schedule 1 drug, but weed has never killed anybody. So I don't understand why we're comparing weed to cocaine or meth. Those things actually do kill you, especially if you do lots of it. And it's actually really addictive. Weed is not actually addictive. Anybody who says that is full of shit. Weed you can literally cut off. You can stop smoking weed and you'll be fine. You're not gonna have like withdrawals, like with nicotine or with caffeine. Like you'll be fine. It's just a matter of cutting the habit. So if we were to actually look at just marijuana cases alone, I'm sure we can open up a lot of space for these illegal immigrants to go in there. That's just my take. Trump administration, if you're listening, all the people that you have in there that smoke pot or got arrested for pot, take them out. Come on. It's just pot. It don't kill nobody. All right. So I just wanted to say that. All right. So let's move on to a little bit of politics. All right, Democrats claim the people regret their vote, which is very wrong, horribly wrong. Is it that one?
Yeah, it looks like that was the order.
No, not that one.
No?
Is that Byron Donalds?
Yeah.
Okay, just kidding. Yeah, put Byron Donalds. Just kidding. I was ahead of myself, my bad. This guy's going to be our next governor in Florida, bro. Just putting that out there. Anybody who's going to vote in Florida, vote for Byron Donalds. Okay.
Donald's Republican from Florida. We should also note that he is running for governor in the great state of Florida, the Sunshine State. Congressman, thank you so much for being here.
It's good to be back with you.
It's good to have you back. I know it's a busy time for you, so we really appreciate it. We're going to talk about the president's comments there as well as the economy. But let's talk about that moment when he said, I don't know, when I asked him if he has to uphold the Constitution of as the president of the United States. What was your reaction to hearing that? Do you think he has to uphold every part of the Constitution, including including the Fifth Amendment?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. I think what the president was talking about is, yes, he's going to uphold the Constitution. He's taking advice from his legal team, led obviously by the White House counsel, the Attorney General of the United States, everybody working at the Department of Homeland Security, about all of the parameters that they are using to deport illegal aliens out of this country, which is the core of President Trump's victory last November. Let's remember, the American people have been clear that they want criminal illegal aliens, number one, and then illegal aliens overall returned to their home countries. Donald Trump is fulfilling that promise. Now, I think to the broader question in this entire situation, is it okay for the previous administration to abuse the border security laws, abuse asylum, abuse temporary protected status, open up the country to millions of people, and then hide behind due process where it would take us 15 years to actually process people back out of the United States?
And you're talking about the numbers. You're saying there are so many people here that it would just take too long. But let me ask you, I mean, the Constitution says that everyone who's here is entitled to due process. So I understand there are big numbers that you are talking about and that the president is dealing with. But if you're going to follow the Constitution, don't you have to follow what it says by letter and law?
Well, I think first, the other thing is you have to look at this. When you come in, let's say on an asylum package, that is at the discretion of the administration. The administration is now saying, you know what? We are going to have a legal detainer for you to be deported, and you are going to be removed from the United States. That's under the premise of how you came in. Second thing, every illegal alien that came here, the first thing they did is they broke the law coming into our country. Right. They broke the law. Let's level set here. That's what they did. So there is an orderly process that the president and his team is going through. They're not just rounding up people and dropping them out of the country. That is not true. Everybody that's been deported to this point has had a legal deportation order executed by the president's administration.
But in this case, in the case of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, the administration said it was an administrative error. And in 2019, an immigration judge issued an order that's still in effect that he should not be deported back to El Salvador. And I guess this goes back to the question that I was asking to President Trump. Do you think that everyone, citizens and non-citizens, are entitled to due process?
Well, first and foremost, let me be clear with you. When it comes to due process, that is a privilege reserved for American citizens. When people are in our country illegally, there is a semblance of due process, but not nearly at the level of a United States citizen, of an American. There are two different standards. You come to America, you are a guest in the United States. That privilege can be revoked. And a lot of these illegal aliens were not guests. They showed up at the southern border. Joe Biden abused our laws, ignored our laws, and let them in.
And yet,
so what are the American people supposed to say about that?
Well, the Constitution, I mean, let me just read you. This is the Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces. And then it goes on to say, nor shall any person be subjected for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life, limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. So the Constitution says any person, not citizen. And therein lies the debate and the root of my question. I mean, does any person just apply to citizens in your mind, or does it apply to citizens and non-citizens? The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, says it applies to citizens and non-citizens.
Well, let's be very clear. First and foremost, when the framers wrote our Constitution, they never envisioned that there would be an executive that would allow millions of people to come into the country illegally. They never fathomed that.
Exactly.
Number two, more importantly, you have a situation right now. Is it okay for any administration to not follow the law, abuse border security laws, let millions of people in, and then hide behind the court system to say, well, now they're here, so now we have to go through a lengthy process? Let's examine this right now.
Exactly.
Right now, what we know is that when people came into the country illegally, almost 90% of them would not even go to the hearings. So if you're supposed to show up for a hearing and you do not go, what are we supposed to do as a country?
Very quickly, let me just interject, and we're running out of time.
Yeah, let me interject. We're running out of time because we want to talk about tariffs, of course, because she already got cornered. She lost that argument. The argument is very simple. The Constitution was made for American citizens. It was not made for non-citizens. It was made for American citizens. Again, that's why we have the 14th amendment. It is not rocket science. They're making it rocket science because they don't want to come to the conclusion that they're in the wrong and we're in the right. That's just the reality of it. He did a great job at explaining that and really getting everybody to listen to that, especially people that are in the left who don't want to come to their senses of the reality that if you're a citizen, you get the full due process under the law. If you're a non-citizen, you get some type of due process, but it's not the one that the left wants. And it's not about what the left wants. It's about what's in the law right now. And immigration law does not say you need a full due process with a grand jury and all that good stuff. You don't need that. So let's talk about politics. So Hakeem Jeffrey, bro, we had to speed up the video because this guy speaks so slow. Like, there's people that are in their 80s. Freaking Bernie Sanders speaks faster than this guy. Like, he's trying to play like this Obama guy, but he's like a worn out, bootlegged, cheap version of Obama. All right, you ready? We're gonna need to put the volume up there.
Is sacredly obligatory upon all. That means everyone in the United States of America.
No, that's fine. We don't need to hear more of that.
Made the important observation that the Constitution is sacredly obligatory upon all. That means everyone in the United States of America has a responsibility to follow the Constitution. That includes presidents of the United States of America.
He's like a little robot.
Donald Trump. There is nothing unclear about it. Why does Donald Trump make such ridiculous statements? Like he's unsure as to whether he has a responsibility to follow the Constitution.
Oh, here we go. That's all they have. Oh, he says that I don't know, so he doesn't know what to do.
As their candidate for the United States Senate seat in Georgia. Why?
Oh, they're mad about that.
Is the
Marjorie
top thing
Taylor
that House
Greene.
Republicans going to do this week on their legislative agenda, renaming the Gulf of Mexico?
Hell yeah, Gulf of America, bitch.
On the run. They're on the run. They're on the run with respect to the economy. They are crashing the economy in real time.
That's why they're the ones making the bills, and you guys are just sitting on the sidelines because they're on the run.
About the economy, they promised to lower costs.
They are lowering costs.
Cost of living in the United States of
My
America.
groceries are a lot cheaper now.
They're going up. House Republicans haven't passed a single bill
Yet.
that has anything to do
We
with lowering
we did
high cost of
they
living
did pass
in
bills,
the United
but
States of
okay.
America. Not a single bill, no executive order, no administrative
Not yet.
action coming from this administration. They're crashing the economy in real time, driving us toward
They're not crashing the economy. Everybody who supposedly lost money in their 401ks got it back.
the economy. They're on the run with respect to healthcare. They want to enact the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. It's deeply unpopular.
That's a lie.
Which is why they have been ordered not to hold town hall meetings.
I don't know
Democrats
if
are
that's
running
even
toward
true.
Our constituents, and House Republicans are running away from them. And Republicans are on the run as it relates to Social Security. They believe that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme.
It is a Ponzi scheme.
And they're trying to end Social Security as we know it. Democrats are here to protect and strengthen.
Yep, because that's what you guys want is big government. That's all you guys give a fuck about is big government. All right, we're
Barely
done.
100 days.
I just wanted to. I wanted people to hear him lie. Pretty much, that's all they know how to do is lie over and over and over and over again. I don't know if they stop town hall meetings. You would have to ChatGPT that. Have Republicans stop doing town hall meetings to see if this guy's even honest about that. But when it comes to Medicaid and Social Security, that's a lie. All they're doing is they're making sure there's no fraud when it comes to those programs. They're making sure that people that are not citizens or not even legal are using or having access to these programs. Again, I'm an American, but I'm still an immigrant. So I know immigrants who came here under the Biden-Harris administration and they got a Social Security with no legality. They got food stamps, no legality, and they got Medicaid. So this guy, the fact that he doesn't want to recognize that Medicaid is being abused by their system, because at the end of the day, it was a leftist in charge. The leaders on the left were in charge for 4 years, and they allowed Medicaid to be abused. They allowed Social Security to be abused. So now they don't want to acknowledge that it was abused. They didn't do jack shit those 4 years, and now they want to talk a big game and say, oh, well, Republicans aren't doing shit. No, bro, you're not doing shit. You didn't do shit for 4 years, and you're still not doing shit. All you're doing is complaining and bitching and whining like a little bitch that you are, and you just, oh, you know, they're not doing anything. What are you doing, bro? What are you fucking doing? Aside from lying to the public over and over and over again, you're not doing anything. You're part of the problem. You're not part of the fucking solution. Because if you were really part of the solution, you would be honest to the American people, Hakeem, and you would tell them the truth, that they're the people that came here the wrong way, the people that you are defending, did use Medicaid, are using Medicaid. In fact, I'm going to get even more anecdotal on you. I used to work for the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, and I used to work for Florida Blue. And guess what? Under Florida Blue, at the time that I was doing it, this is all literal straight up, just giving you my straight up experience. I would go to people to sign them up, and there were people that did not have, they had their Social Security, they had a worker's permit, meaning they probably came here illegally. They got all their Social Security that comes super fast in the mail. They got the worker's permit that comes a couple months after. And
so
with
to everyone,
and with that, I was able to sign them up. So the fact that they want to, I'm literally telling you, I used to do insurance, and I signed up, I don't even know how many people who all they had was a Social Security and a worker's permit. That's it. They didn't have no passport. Their legal status was limbo, because all those people came here during the Biden-Harris administration. So Hakeem Jeffrey and all you idiots who are defending non-citizens who came here illegally, all you're doing is saying, yes, fuck Americans, fuck your tax dollars. We want to give it to people that didn't even work for it, because that is the Democratic way. They don't give a fuck about actually making money and earning it. All they care about is spending money and giving it to those who didn't even actually put any work or sweat into the system. That's literally the Democratic way. And it's just unfortunate, because they weren't like that, 2 decades ago? And now they're a whole different party. But at the same time, I'm glad. I want you to continue being like that, the way you continue losing over and over and over again. So let's look at the Trump speech in University of Alabama. I only got this part because this is the part that means the most to everybody. So take a look at this. This is our commander-in-chief trying to inspire people that just graduated from university in Alabama.
So to everyone here today, don't waste your youth. Go out and fight right from the beginning, from the day you leave this incredible university. Go out and fight tough, fight fair. But go out and fight. You're going to be very successful, because now is the time to work harder than you have ever worked before. Push yourself further than you have ever pushed yourself before. Find your limits and then smash through everything. Go and smash through. You've watched that football team smash through. You're going to do the same.
All right, cool. So that was just a little clip of it. It was like an hour long. If you want to watch the whole thing, by all means. He does make fun of trans. Bruh, what's going on with you? By all means, watch the whole thing. He did make fun of trans people, and Kamala Harris obviously did a speech counteracting that, which was a terrible speech. But we want her to continue talking, because that's the leader, supposedly. That's the one who's gonna run next time. It's either her or AOC, either or. They're terrible choices, so it doesn't really matter. The reason why I brought that up is because I don't know if you guys remember, but when Biden did his speech to university graduates, he was talking about white supremacy and how, there's a threat, and the threat is white supremacy. We have to worry about white supremacy, and everything was all about, be scared. It was not inspirational whatsoever. And it just shows you that there was a huge difference in just the way you lead was different. Like, the left leads by telling people to be scared. Hakeem Jeffrey literally just did a conference talking about, they're gonna kill people. People are gonna die because of their benefits are gonna get cut from this big this big beautiful bill. This big beautiful bill is gonna kill people. Like, he literally said that. Like, that's all they have is, oh, if you don't vote for us, you will die. Like, that's the ultimatum they give you. Oh, if you don't mutilate these kids, they will commit suicide. Like, it's ridiculous. And that shows you that they don't really have an actual plan to execute. That's why they have to come to your emotions. They have to be like, if you don't do this, you're gonna die. Or if you don't do this, people will die, you know? And they have to go to these extreme outcomes because they don't really have any real plan. Anything that sticks, anything that actually sells, anything that's actually marketable. And that's the problem with these people. They're not marketable. Their ideas suck so badly. And they just don't understand that, which it pisses me off. It's like, bro, it's really fucking obvious. But apparently it's not obvious enough because millions of people still voted for Kamala Harris, unfortunately. So we haven't been able to get enough people yet for where the Democrats actually have to switch the tune. So I predict that we need to be doing more talking about how bad their ideas are in order for more people to realize their ideas are very bad. So, and because they're very bad, why should you be voting for people that have shitty ideas? That's just, it's again, you don't have to be smart. You don't have to be an Ivy League student. You can be a regular average person like me on the internet who comes up with these conclusions. But tell me what you think in the comments. And let's go to this last one here. International. The Mexico leader denies help to handle the cartels. I wonder why she would deny help.
El presidente Trump dijo, queremos ayudar a México. Y para ayudar a México, pues queremos mandarles, entre otras, tropas, o si es que lo necesitan. Y yo le dije, no, presidente Trump, eso no. Podemos colaborar en muchas otras cosas dentro del marco de nuestra soberanía y de la territorialidad que a cada uno de nosotros nos corresponde. El presidente Trump dijo mano dura a el tráfico de armas de Estados Unidos a México. Eso no se había oído nunca de un presidente de los Estados Unidos.
Well, that tells you a lot, then.
Y es importante para México que se detenga el tráfico de armas, así como nosotros estamos trabajando muy fuerte para disminuir, detener el tráfico de fentanilo de México hacia los Estados Unidos y de otras drogas.
Before we get to the next one, she literally just said, no other president has ever said what he said. That there is a problem with the selling of illegal arms into what is it? Into Mexico, into us? It's into Mexico, right?
Yeah.
We're the ones selling the guns to them. What's interesting though is that there's plenty of documents, what is it called? Documentaries, I had a brain fart, that literally tells you that we sell guns through the black market, allegedly, to the cartels. This is not, In fact, there's a song by Immortal Technique that literally is called Peruvian Cocaine, where he goes into depth about that, about how that's been an operation that's been happening for years now. And I think it's questionable how he's the first president ever to point out, why are we allowing illegal gun transactions to happen and to send them to the cartels? Like, the fact that he's the first president that's ever brought that up into our attention, the people, and to the Mexican leader, tells you that the other leaders possibly were, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm trying to look for the word, like, not involved, but they were not complicit. I'm trying to look for the word exactly. Like, when you know something, but you're just kind of like, what are you going to do?
Indifferent?
Yeah, like, I'm trying to look for another word here. It's not indifferent. It's like they're involved, they're indirectly involved by not doing anything about it.
Yeah, it's ignorant.
No, but they're not ignorant because they know what's going on.
No, when you're ignorant, you have knowledge about something and...
Compromised. I was looking for that word. I was like, supposed to see. To me, it looks like these other leaders were compromised
Yeah, but ignorant means that when you have knowledge of something and you just choose not to do anything about it.
Yeah, but in this
like,
case,
you know
this
it's
is,
bad, but you don't.
But this is
don't
beyond
care.
that. This is has to be you're either extremely highly corrupted and you're getting your kickback from it, or you're compromised. Either or, it's bad, because if you're the leader of America, you should not be allowing illegal guns.
I
to
take
be-
that back.
What?
So ignorance, lacking knowledge or awareness in general.
Yeah, I know. That's not. It's not ignorance. It's you're either compromised, highly corrupted, whatever the case might be, and it's not about left or right, bro. Bush didn't say shit. Bush Sr. didn't say shit. Obama didn't say shit. Biden definitely didn't say shit. Biden didn't even know what the fuck was going on. Biden didn't even sign his own bills, bro. Which, by the way, we need to look into that. Eventually they'll look into that, because that is one of the biggest scandals in American history. Is the president of the United States did not sign his own executive orders or did not sign any bill into law. It was all auto pen. That is the most biggest scandal. Not to mention the fact that he was inoperable, not present at all during the 4 years, and it was obvious, and they were lying about it. The media was lying about it. The White House was lying about it. Everybody in the mother was lying about it, except for obviously the right media like Fox, and then independent podcasters that were like, bro, this guy is not here. He's mentally unstable.
So apparently, I was half correct. The term is being willfully ignorant. When you're being willfully ignorant, that means that you intentionally choose to not know something, or you choose to ignore something knowing that it could affect somebody else or yourself negatively.
Yeah, but I think it goes beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it goes beyond willfully ignorant or whatever. I think it goes because you're the leader of the country.
Well, compromise like...
I think compromise is definitely a better word to use here. Allegedly, I believe the past leaders were compromised because of the fact that nobody bothered to highlight the fact that the cartels are bringing drugs into this country, and the drug epidemic grew bigger and bigger and bigger. And the states that should have sounded the alarm years ago should have been the states that are the leftist, which is California, New York, Oregon, Washington State, where the drug abuse epidemic has really expanded and has really hurt their state. Those are the states that should be the most like, yeah, we need to do something about this. What the fuck is going to be done? And instead, they were like, nah, we're going to use that to get more taxpayer money, and we're going to fund nonprofit organizations.
Yeah, so compromise is basically something that's vulnerable, and if you're put in a position where you're vulnerable, it usually has to do with like security, a security issue. It's more, that's when you would use that term.
Okay, so then corrupted,
more like information related. Yeah, I mean, you could say, like, if you're in a group of people and you're doing something and you're fighting against another group of people and you're giving information to the other group, you're compromised. You're a compromised source because you're backstabbing the party that you're with.
But you're with, I mean, in this case, you're with, I mean, technically you are backstabbing the country because you're withholding information.
To put it, but basically it's just a vulnerable person.
Okay, so then yes, I would say previous administrations were not only compromised but corrupted, because you have to be a corrupted administration to literally allow illegal gun transactions to happen and to be sent to cartels, and not probably just cartels, probably to terrorist organizations like Al Qaeda and ISIS and all those other people, the Houthis, etc. Because
well, then it's pretty much corruption.
So the fact that he's the only president to ever say that tells you that perhaps the previous administrations were highly corrupted. This is me just speculating
allegedly
here. Yeah, just speculating here. Aside from that, though, before I get into the last one, I also want to add and I put this on Instagram, and it's one of those things that you really have to think about. Why is it that Trump is the only president that has said, yeah, we're going to declare the cartels a terrorist organization? Why didn't Obama do that? I don't understand. Obama had 2 terms, 8 years to realize the cartels were a problem. I mean, he did deport millions of people, but yet he didn't do it. Why? It's not like the cartels were less of a problem back then. They were the same as they are now. So more then, because we didn't have as much law enforcement as we do now. So again, it just makes me wonder whether the leaders actually gave a shit about the American. I don't think they did. That's why they didn't declare them as a terrorist organization, which to me is treasonous. But hey, I don't even want to go there anymore. I think karma's a bitch, and Obama, if you did us wrong, karma will get you. So let's go to the last one, which is what's the next truth-seeking story? It is RFK. All right, so I haven't really talked about RFK because I've been waiting for him to do a couple things to have something to talk about. So he did a lot of things in the time that I've been dark on him. So vaccine policy overhaul. So Kennedy has mandated that all new vaccines undergo placebo-controlled trials before approval. Why is it that now is when this is happening? I want to know, why is this happening now? Why didn't all the other HHS secretaries didn't do the same thing? I don't understand. And they're supposed to know more. They're supposed to be more credible because apparently Kennedy is not a doctor, so he's not credible. But yet he's actually made sense here. Vaccines should undergo placebo-controlled trials. Yet they weren't done before when there was a doctor as Secretary of HHS. So that tells you that credibility when it comes to titles doesn't mean anything. So it says here, while intended to increase transparency, experts warn this could delay vaccine rollouts, which is perfectly fine as long as they're safe. That's what matters. It's not about speed, it's about safety. They don't care about that, obviously. Additionally, Kennedy has questioned the safety of existing vaccines, promoting alternative treatments like vitamin A for measles despite insufficient scientific backing. There's a lot. Have you guys noticed that when you guys go to the doctor and you do a generic blood exam, they don't test your vitamin levels and mineral levels? You should ask yourself that question. If you want that type of test, you got to pay extra for that. That tells you everything about the health system. That should be included, but it's not. So public health infrastructure changes. Under Kennedy's leadership, the Department of Health and Human Services has been significant in staffing cuts. Yes, more layoffs. Thousands of employees laid off. These reductions have raised concerns about the department's capacity to respond to public health emergencies and maintain essential services. And the last one is there's going to be a Kennedy testimony coming up May 14th. The hearing will address his department's policy changes, budget proposals, and responses to recent public health challenges, including measles outbreaks, which, by the way, the media stopped talking about, so obviously it wasn't that big of an outbreak to begin with, and vaccine policy shifts, which I'm sure a lot of people like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders are not happy about that because they make money off of Big Pharma. But he also talked about autism. So Kennedy has launched a national study to investigate environmental links to autism, appointing controversial figures to lead the research. Critics argue that this approach revives debunks theories and could lead to discriminatory practices. His comments suggesting that individuals with autism are incapable of contributing to society have drawn backlash from advocates and families. Okay, the reality is you cannot compare a regular person to somebody that is autistic. Laz and I were behavioral technicians for autistic kids. Now we recognize that there is different types of autistic children. There is the fully functioning ones. They're the ones that we call full functioning. So they don't have any issues doing, independent tasks like, cleaning up after themselves, putting on their clothes, showering by themselves, all that stuff. But when it comes to basic social skills like learning how to talk on the phone, they don't really know how to do that, stuff like that. But then there's the nonverbals, and a lot of kids are nonverbal. If you can actually look up what are the stats on nonverbal autistic kids, if I'm mistaken, there's more female nonverbal than there are males, because for some reason, when a female is diagnosed as autistic, it's a lot worse than males, and they, for the most part, are nonverbal. It's very sad. My first client was a nonverbal little girl, and she completely nonverbal, never have the opportunity to talk. She'll have to learn. I'm assuming she's learned already by now how to communicate through a tablet. That's a special tablet for nonverbal autistic kids.
So, I mean, there's not like specific numbers, but in general, they're saying that males are affected more than females. Nonverbal.
Yeah, but more males are autistic, but it's more common for the females to be more nonverbal than males. Are you looking through
Well,
this
yeah, I mean,
chat?
they're saying there's no specific data to back up that claim that
Is
there's
this Google?
I mean, this is AI.
Okay. Yeah, I don't trust Google's AI. It's retarded.
I mean, I'm pretty sure ChatGPT will say the same thing.
Yeah, I rather use
It is a very broad field. It's kind of hard to get a number on that.
Okay. So
I think it's too new.
From the experience that we have,
But from what we've seen,
more males are autistic.
yeah.
But they are more functioning than the females. And there's a higher chance of them learning how to speak compared to the females.
Yeah, this is true.
Okay. There's that. Another thing is we don't really know where autism came from, autism better said, because the amount of autism that happened in the 90s or the 80s
Very small.
was non-existent compared to now. Yeah. So clearly something in the environment, something in the water, something in the food, something has created this spike in children becoming autistic, obviously. So I think if he can find out what the causes can be, and then they can actually look into, let's say it's food, then that's going to definitely question the FDA and how the FDA has been operating for decades. Because they're the ones who approve what we eat in the groceries. So if they can say, yeah, it's because of these foods, that this is happening, that just as an example, then we can definitely be, okay, so the FDA has been allowing toxic foods for X amount of years, and as a result, now we have kids that will never be able to live regular lives. Obviously, you can't be accountable for those people because maybe that happened years ago, during whatever administration, but it doesn't change the fact that there has to be some type of accountability moving forward, because if we continue to have kids with more autism and more autism and more autism, then the amount of people that are going to be autistic versus average is going to be, the scale is going to tip, and that's not good. We need functioning citizens in society. Like right now, kids are not even regular kids are not fully functioning kids because they're addicted to their phones. They can't have a regular conversation with you. They can't watch a movie without being on their phone while watching the movie. So I think that we just need to really have these conversations, like what is causing autism, because we need to stop it from expanding itself. And we need to actually think about what screen time is doing to kids. Because even though they're, regular kids are functioning, are they really functioning? If they can't sit down and watch a movie without being on their phones, are they really that functioning? I don't think so. I think regular kids right now even have some type of attention deficit. They have an attention problem. I mean, adults do too, but kids definitely have an attention problem because we're giving too much time on tablet or too much time on phone or too much time on the TV. And I think this is really important to talk about because I'm not a parent, but I don't like seeing parents give a phone as if it's a freaking pacifier just because they don't want to be parents. I think we need to change that culture if we want to actually improve our lives and actually make the generations after us smarter, and actually fully functioning citizens. So guys, this is all we have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe, like, share with your family and friends. Even those who are left, share with them. I'm not a hardcore conservative. I'm pretty in the middle, and I just want to have different perspectives. Thank you so much for tuning in. Become a truth seeker, and I'll see you guys next time.